A DC-10 jetliner with 139 people on board caught fire during takeoff from New York's Kennedy Airport today. But the pilot stopped the plane. No one was badly hurt. It was an overseas National Airways charter flight. Nancy Herr has more.
The passengers were all overseas National Airways employees bound for Saudi Arabia. But what started as an assignment to work charter flights for the upcoming pilgrimage to Mecca ended here on this runway, in flames and billows of black smoke. What happened? Because all of the passengers were airline employees, they were not permitted to comment. But according to an airline official, the pilot was accelerating the big DC-10 for takeoff when a flock of birds was ingested into the engine, forcing him to abort that takeoff.
As soon as the birds hit, the engine burst into fire and apparently dropped off the wing. Flames came back over the wing, and with the wing started burning, and the wing was burning before the airplane came to rest.
Airline officials call it a miracle that the pilot was not only able to stop the plane just 100 feet short of a heavy metal fence, but also that all 139 aboard were safely evacuated before the big jet went up in flames. Still, there were some injuries.
Smoke inhalation, minor fractures, one dislocated shoulder, multiple contusions and abrasions, and about 80 hysterical people.
At latest count, at least 20 people were injured, many of them firemen falling victim to the intense heat and smoke. And the plane itself was a total loss. But despite all this, airline officials are relieved. It could have been worse. Nancy Herr, ABC News, New York.
For the first time, a witness...
Incidentally, charges against DeMarco were dropped last month after a judge ruled he had not received a fair trial. At Kennedy Airport in New York today, a DC-10 airliner burst into flames just before takeoff, but all 139 aboard escaped with their lives. The pilot aborted the takeoff and steered the plane off the runway after a flock of birds was sucked into one of the engines. Then the passengers slid down the escape chute from the overseas National Airways plane. 9 persons were slightly injured. The plane was flying overseas national employees to Europe for flight assignments. The airline said the accident underlines the need to get rid of the birds at Kennedy Airport.
A big DC-10 jetliner with 139 people aboard caught fire on takeoff today at New York's Kennedy Airport. But the pilot managed to halt the takeoff. While the plane was destroyed, everybody got out. Only 4 people were injured getting out. Lee McCarthy covered the story.
The thick black smoke from the fire could be seen 10 miles away. Pieces of tires and other debris were thrown as far as 3,000 feet. The plane was owned by Overseas National Airways, a charter line, and all aboard were airline employees on their way to Saudi Arabia to work charter flights for the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. The jetliner was taking off, traveling at what airport officials call safety speed, when the trouble started. The pilot managed to keep the plane on the ground and stop the takeoff.
During the takeoff, the number 3 engine went on fire, and the pilot tried to abort the flight. I couldn't hold it on the runway, and it went into the soft ground. They had failure of the landing gear, and the plane came down. He and the crew were able to get everybody out, and then they had the ignition in the fire.
The passengers and crew got out on safety chutes. 2 policemen were injured helping in the rescue, and at least 5 firemen were hurt fighting the fire. None of the injuries was serious. A spokesman for the airline said that seagulls sucked into the plane's powerful jet engines may have started the fire that eventually engulfed all 170 feet of the fuselage. After the plane settled into this soft ground, there was a series of explosions, but by then everyone was out. Fire officials say the training and quick action of the crew averted a major disaster. Lee McCarthy, NBC News at Kennedy Airport.
Ben Blackburn, a former Republican congressman,